Hello everyone. Today we will walk through a real-world Django request response cycle. What exactly happens when a user hits a URL in their browser and how Django processes that request step by step until a response is sent back. Let's understand with the help of example. Let's say you have a user and user send a request. A user sends a request. User opens the browser and visits https://myshop.com products. So this is the first step. User open the browser and visits some endpoint like this. The browser sends an HTTP GET request to your Django server. The browser sends an HTTP GET request. The browser sends an HTTP GET request to your Django server. In step 2, the WSGI server receives the request. So user sends a request. User sends a request. First step in Django, the WSGI server receives the request. The WSGI is nothing but a web server gateway interface, is like a bridge between the web server Unicorn or UWSGI and Django. So first of all, when user sends any request, that time this request first of all comes on this WSGI server receives the request. The WSGI web server gateway interface is like a bridge between the web server and Django. I hope till now anything is clear. If any doubt, please comment it. I am here to teach you, to understand you each and everything related Django, AI, machine learning. So if you are new on this channel, don't forget to subscribe and like. So the WSGI receives the request and sends it to a Django handle. What happens? The WSGI server receives the requests and send it to Django to handle. So on step 3, Django settings are loaded. Step 3, Django settings are loaded. Django loads the settings.py file, which contains all project configuration like installed apps, middleware, URL configuration, database settings, template directory, static files path. First of all, Django receives an request on WSGI server. Let me show you what is WSGI server receives the request and what is WSGI file in Python. Here, guys, we have an project e-commerce of Django. Here we have an app core and the project name is e-commerce. Here you see asgi.py and wsgi.py. First of all, the WSGI server receives a request. Let me open this. Here, this file is responsible on first step of Django when request comes here. When request comes here, then the WSGI server is like a bridge between the web server and Django. The WSGI receives the request and sends into Django to handle. Django settings are loaded on step 2. After WSGI server, Django loads the settings.py file which contains all the project configuration like installed apps, middleware, URL configuration, database. Let me show you all of this. If I open this settings.py, here you will see the installed apps. In my example, I have an app with name core as I show you, and then we have a middleware, and then we have templates. WSGI application is also there, database settings, and the static root media files also there. So in settings.py we have installed apps, middleware, URL configuration, database settings, templates directory, and static files path. I hope these both two steps are clear for you. Let's continue on step 3, when Django receives the request. Middleware processing begins. Django runs the request. So on step 4, middleware processing begins. Django runs the request through a chain of middleware. Think of middleware as a gatekeepers or filters. So middleware is nothing but thing like a gatekeeper or filter which person allow you to enter in a gate in a some building, or filter something to enter in some places. So Django runs the request through a chain of middleware. Think of middleware as a gatekeeper or filter. So first of all, security middleware check if it is a secure request. Then authentication middleware attaches the logged in user to the request. And then session middleware attaches session data. When Django middleware processing begins, Django runs the request through a chain of middleware. We have a chain of middlewares in every Django project. Think of middleware as a gatekeeper or filter. Security middleware check if it is a secure request. Then authentication middleware attaches the logged in user to the request. Then session middleware attaches session data. You can think of middleware as browser, then middleware 1, middleware 2, middleware 3, and views. I hope this simple example clear your each and everything related Django request response cycle. Till now we covered 3 steps. First of all, the WSGI server receive a request, then settings.py file handle this request. In settings.py file we have a middleware portion. In middleware we have a security middleware. First of all, checks security middleware check if it is a secure request. Then we have authentication middleware. This check either the coming request is logged in user or not. Then session middleware attaches session data. And let's say browser. Let's think simple. Browser user hit some request from browser. Then middleware 1, middleware 2, middleware 3 to the views. So in step 4, the step 5 of our request, including the browser step of user part. URL routing happens on urls.py. Django goes to the urls.py file to find which view should handle products. After go through middlewares, then request come on urls.py. Django goes to the urls.py file to find which view should handle products. Let's say we have an app my shop and we have urls.py. Inside this we define some path for our route products. Inside views dot we have product underscore list and name product list. So this is URL patterns list inside urls.py of your app. So now Django knows for this request I should call product list view because user request for this, and Django knows for this request I should call the product list view inside this. So on step 5 of Django request, view function or class is called because here views.product list we have a view function. Let's say this is your view. Let me show you. Let's say this is your view.py, and inside view we have a function with definition product underscore list. This will accept some request. When this function call, this will first get all products from product and then return products.html with this context products, which this fetch on calling this. What happens here, Django fetches product from the database. On this Django fetches product from the database, then renders them using an HTML template, sends the HTML back to the user. Django on this line, Django fetches product from the database, then render them using an HTML template. Here as you see, sends the HTML back to the user, return it, sends the HTML back to the user. So on step 5 of Django, view function or class is called. Let's say we have a function product underscore list inside views.py of our app. So first of all, Django products.objects.all, Django fetch product from the database, all product from the database, then renders them using an HTML template. After that, sends the HTML back to the user. I hope this step is clear. On step 6 of Django, database hit for the ORM query. If the view accesses the database like products.objects.all, Django uses the ORM object relational mapper to convert Python code into SQL and fetch data. I hope you understand here what is ORM and what is the role of ORM in Django. In the view access the database like products.objects.all, Django uses the ORM object relational mapper to convert Python code into SQL and fetch data. Example SQL behind the scene. Select all from products. This query will run whenever Django whenever function will call, and this query will run. If the view accesses the database like product.object.all, Django uses the ORM object relation mapper to convert this product Python code into SQL. The ORM convert from this to fetch data from the database. I hope till now everything is clear. On step 8, template rendering HTML generation. The render function combines what the HTML template products.html and the context data products. This is the step 7 of whole request of Django. After database hit, the template rendering HTML generation. How this works? The render function combines what? The render function combines the HTML template as well as the context data. The render function combines the HTML template as well as the context data. I hope. And generates a final HTML page like this. All products. Inside this we have a list, laptop something like $100,000 and phone $500, because we have all products, and then we are getting the data from the database. And step 8 of our Django, response go back through middleware reverse order. Before the HTML is sent back to the browser, the response passes through all the middleware again, but in reverse. Before goes the response back through middleware. So if user requests, then the Django will show some response. In response, whenever response go back through the middleware in reverse order to show to the user some response on his request. Before the HTML is sent back to the browser, the response passes through all the middleware again, but in reverse. So this allows response, modification, logging, etc. Views, then middleware 3, middleware 2, middleware 1, then browser. So in response, the step 9, we cover the 8 step for the request, and to show the 9th step is the response to show to the user. User sees the final page. The response reaches the user browser and they see all products, laptop $1,000 and phone $500. So this is a complete request response cycle in Django in real world. Let me repeat the steps and his description to you. User sends a request to https://myshop.com products. Then on first step of Django server, the WSGI forward request to Django. Django loads settings, middleware filter the request, URL routing match the product to product list view, view run logic queries DB, ORM fetch data from the database, template render HTML as well as context, response passes back through middleware, and user sees the results in the browser. I hope this will clear your concept of how Django request response cycle works. So here I am going to give you a simple bonus interview tip. Anyway, if the question comes, how can you explain the request cycle in Django, and you can answer it like this. Yes, when a user sends a request, it's first handled by the WSGI server. Django loads settings, process the request through middleware, then match the URL to view in urls.py. The view might query the database using the ORM and render a template. Finally, the response is passed back through middleware and returned to the user browser. I hope this will make sense for you, and this is the bonus tip. Guys, don't forget to subscribe and like if you want more like these videos. Comment it. If any doubt till now, please comment it. Thank you.